Om Song Saraswati Namaha. Namaste. Namaste to you all. On page 258, the discussion on marriage. Some days after the celebration of the Samavartan ceremony, returning home after studies, with renewed spirit, the father and son sat down together on the bank of the river, where they began to talk. Shukadeva said, "Father, having lived with my Guru Brihaspati for so long, I have studied all the sciences, the various forms of knowledge, the Vedas and the forms of tapasya. I have learned what it means to do sadhana and to dedicate my life to God. Father, what is your order for me? What is next for me to do in my life?" Vedavyas replied, "According to our Hindu scriptures, every being has 4 stages of life. You have completed your brahmachari ashram in which you learn, and now the next stage is to become a grahastha. Griha avasta iti grahastha. He who lives in a house is a householder. The duties of a householder are to make a contribution to society and to store up something so in our older age we won't be a burden to anyone else. To take care of our families and to see to the progress and upliftment of the community. Thereafter, you can become a vanaprastha, literally one who lives in the forest, and practically, a vanaprastha has 1 foot inside the house and 1 foot outside the house. And then, quite naturally, one evolves from vanaprastha to sannyasi, someone who has established truth within. Satya nyas kuriyate iti sannyasi. He who has established truth within is a sannyasi. So now, my son, it is time for you to marry. Enjoy your life in this world, make your contribution to society, and I will be very pleased. You know, everyone who comes to this earth plane has 3 debts of karma. A Devaring, Pitriring, and Acharyaring. Debts to the gods, debts to our ancestors, and debts to the gurus or teachers of wisdom. The debt of karma to the gods is discharged by making a contribution to all of life, by working for the upliftment of all existence, by helping others. The debt to the ancestors is paid by taking care of our elderly the way we would want to be cared for when we are old, and by nourishing the next generation the way we want our world to become. And the debt to the gurus or teachers is discharged by acting in accordance with the wisdom that they teach. So now, my son, marry. Take a beautiful wife. Enjoy your life. Pay off your debts of karma. Free me from my debts of karma. And in this way you will fulfill the Hindu ideal. Shukadeva gave his reply. Father, is there any pleasure that is not mixed with pain? Is it possible to have any kind of pleasure while never having any pain? Isn't it true that the pleasure and pain are inseparably connected, and anyone who invites pleasure and seeks the pleasures of a beautiful wife, of a family, a home, or the comforts of good food, nice living conditions, is also going to find that pain is attached to those objects and relationships? I would think that freedom could come to someone who is tied to a pillar. But freedom will never come to a man who is tied to his wife and children. If someone is tied to a post, he can aspire or hope to be free. But if one is bound by the economic and emotional attachments of wife and children, he can never hope to be free. Is anyone free from their children, I ask you? Even when they are grown, is it possible to be free? the self. They never pursue sensual pleasure. They enjoy the pleasure of unity in Brahman. I took Brihaspati as my guru with the hope that he could show me the way to be free. But as I was watching even the guru of the gods, I saw that he was not free himself. I remember the time when his wife Tara went to stay at Chandra's house. Do you remember that incident? Tara had a relationship with Chandra the moon, and Brihaspati was so sad. He was crying all the time, when will my wife come home? She has abandoned me for the moon. Or at least for the man in the moon. Now, if the guru is not free, how can he teach the disciple to be free? The king and the Pundit. Shukadeva continued. There is a story of a king who was told by a Pundit, do you know that King Parikshit was freed, received total liberation just by hearing the Bhagavat recited for 7 days? You too should listen to the Bhagavat. And the king said, all right, let me hear the Bhagavat. And the Pundit went every day and read the Bhagavat for the king to hear. Then the king said to the Pundit, Pundit, more than a week has passed since I've been listening to the Bhagavat and I'm not yet liberated. Either there's something wrong with the book or there's something wrong with the Pundit. Please tell me why I am not liberated. Which one is at fault? The Pundit thought, if I say the book is wrong, he will ask me why I wasted 7 days of his time reading it to him. If I say the Pundit is wrong, he will say, why do I need this kind of a Pundit? Give me someone who is knowledgeable, who can illuminate me. What shall I answer? And then the Pundit said, King, I will give you the answer tomorrow. And all else fails, stop. The king said, you had better give me a satisfactory answer tomorrow, or I'm not going to pay you any dakshina for the services that you've performed, nor will I use your services in the future. And the Pundit went home and was filled with sorrow and anxiety. What will I answer the king? And that night, his young daughter looked at her father and asked, Daddy, you look so anxious. You look like you have been plunged into the world of worries. What is the problem? And the Pundit replied, the king told me that he did not get liberated from listening to the Bhagavat for 7 days. Now, either the book is wrong or the Pundit is wrong. Which is it? And he said, you tell me tomorrow, or I will not pay for any of your services. You know what, my daughter? If the king does not pay me my dakshina, how am I going to buy the groceries and to pay the expenses to take care of our family? And now I am at a loss as to what answer I will give the king. The daughter said, Father, that's easy. I got the answer. And the father said, you do? She said, yes, Father, you just have to take me to the court tomorrow when you go to see the king, and I will give him the answer. Father agreed. The next morning, they went to the king's palace. The king said, okay, Pundit, why have I not become liberated? I have been listening to the Bhagavat for 7 days now. Either the book is wrong or the Pundit is wrong. Which is it? And the Pundit said, excuse me, my king, my daughter wants to give you the answer to this question. Your daughter? Okay, let her answer. The young girl came to the king and said, King, I will give you the answer, but you must promise you will cooperate with me and do just what I tell you to do. And the king said, all right, I'll cooperate. The daughter said, okay, tie me to this post. King said, Captain of the guard, tie tie this girl to the post. They tied her. Is it secure, she asked. Yes, it's secure. You see, I can't get away, can I? They said, no, you can't get away. She said, okay, now tie the king to that post. King, you promised you would cooperate and that you would do what I said. Tie me to the post, the king ordered. They tied the king to the post and the girl said, is it secure? Can the king move? The king said, no, I can't move. I can't get away. Then the little girl said, okay, king, untie me. He said, I can't untie you. I myself am bound. She said, no, king, come and free me. Set me free. I can't set you free, he said. I myself am bound. How can I set you free when I am bound myself? Then the daughter said, you bound my father with fear for money and payment. You bound him. How can he set you free until you release him? And the king accepted the answer and gave the dakshina to the Pundit. When he liberated the girl, he became liberated himself. And when we bind others, it is very difficult for them to set us free. How can they set us free when they themselves are bound? The debate continues. So, Father, I don't want to marry because I think that marriage is a bondage. Tying the knot. You know I have this divine birth. I was born from the sacred fire and not from any ordinary woman's womb. I am not longing for the pleasures of the world. I am longing for the pleasures of the soul. And those are not the pleasures that are obtained by marrying and having children along with the financial responsibilities and the rest. It is very rare to get a human birth, especially to be born in the holy land of India. And even more so to be born in a family of Brahmins. And even more so to be born from the sacred fire from such a father as Veda Vyasa. Now, I have studied the scriptures and Vedanta, and I have had the honor of learning with such a guru as Brihaspati. If beings such as ourselves cannot aspire to freedom, then who in this world can become free? So, Father, please, I will do whatever you say, but please don't tell me to get married. Veda Vyasa gave his reply. He said, son, the house is not a prison from which one seeks to be freed. The house is the temple of your worship. Did you know that even the brahmacharis, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis, when they get hungry, they must come to do puja at the doorsteps of the grihasthas? That is why the grihastha ashram is called the highest of the ashram, because the householder is the support of the entire society. So, son, don't be afraid of bondage. Allow yourself to make a contribution to this world. Look at Vashishta and all the other great rishis. They were all married. He who does not take a wife is certainly to be maddened by the senses. These senses are like restless horses, and even though they may appear to be still for a few moments, at any moment they can jump and run away and take the mind with them. Son, get married. Fulfill your dharma through the appropriate karma and gradually attain to the highest renunciation. Look at Vishwamitra. Even practicing tremendous austerities, for so many thousands of years, when the beautiful maiden Menka came before him, he forgot all his spiritual virtues in a moment and engendered a daughter by her, Shukadeva. My own father, Parasar, when he saw Matsyagandha in the boat, even though she smelled like a fish, he didn't care. He lost the virtue, he lost the stillness, the control of his thoughts, and his senses ran away from his mind. My son, get married. Fulfill your dharma and go step by step from ashram to ashram. Shukadeva replied, Father, you know a married man is always looking for money. Always he is in need of money. He needs money for this and he needs money for that. And therefore, he is always anxious. Look at Indra. Indra is Lord of the heavens, and yet he is always anxious. He doesn't want anyone to conquer the heavens or become as great a sadhu as he. So he is always putting obstacles in the path of every seeker. Brahma is not happy, even though he has created this whole samsara, or ocean of objects and relationships. Even Vishnu, who has the beautiful Lakshmi as his bride, even still, he is not always happy and satisfied. He is repeatedly required to come down to earth to fight with asuras. Shiva suffers incessant problems. Knowing fully well the truth of the world, why are you putting me into this terrible samsara full of pains and agonies? Why are you sending me to get married? Father, there is pain in birth, there is pain in death, there is pain in old age, and there is pain in the life of the womb, but the pain arising from unfulfillable desire and greed is the most terrible of all the pains mentioned. A Brahmin has only 6 activities in which he can become engaged: learning and teaching, worshiping for himself and worshiping for others, giving what he can and accepting that which is offered in love. That means that a Brahmin has no other way to earn a livelihood but to accept gifts from others. Can you imagine what a pain it is to dwell in expectation that after years of study, after years of tapasya, a Brahmin is forced to wait for the generosity of others who are not even trained to appreciate his knowledge? After studying all the Vedas and other scriptures and acquiring wisdom, ultimately the Brahmins have to go to the rich and to praise them in the hopes that they may get some money with which they can feed their family. Whereas if there's contentment in the mind, and the man is alone without any obligations or responsibilities, he can somehow find something to satisfy his appetites. Father, please teach me the wisdom of eternal truth, the way to perfect happiness. Tell me about how my karmas can be completely fulfilled. Don't tell me about having children and having a wife and a house, nor about having bills and debts, nor about having to go out and beg for money to pay them off. Tell me how I can obtain silence and stillness in my mind so that I don't need to get anything more. Tell me how this great ignorance of duality can be destroyed. When Vedyas heard Shukadeva's discourse, he became merged in a sea of anxiety and began to think of what else could be done to convince his son of the truth contained in the path outlined by the scriptures. Shukadeva looked at Vedyas filled with anxiety and said, "Oh my goodness, what power this Maya has! Nothing is as strong as Maya. You who divided the Vedas, defined the schools of the Vedas, who wrote the 18 Puranas, who wrote the histories, the Bhagavad, the Mahabharata, the Devi Bhagavata, you are suffering from the ignorance and delusion of attachment? You want your son to have a wife? What pleasure is that going to bring you? Father, seeing me bound for eternity in the samsara of objects and relationships, is that going to make you happy? How can this wonderful wonderfully intelligent being becomes so deluded by Maya. What a power this Maya has that even the great Vedas, to whom the whole world looks for inspiration, is suffering from these delusions. This Maya deluded Brahma, it deluded Vishnu, it deludes Shiva, and the whole universe. Who is there in the universe that is not fascinated under the influence of Maya? I bow down to that Maya. I take refuge in that Maya. I will have only that Maya as my own. Father, all this universe is like a net of delusion. Understanding this, remembering this, abandon your grief. Renounce your sorrow. To get a human birth in this land of karma is very difficult. Again, to get a Brahmin birth is extremely rare. And when I have attained this beautiful birth as a strong and healthy Brahmin boy who has studied the wisdom of the scriptures and Vedanta, and I have served many spiritual teachers, yet I still have this idea that I am bound by the world. Father, how can I get freedom? Even Veda Vyas is not free. And you are telling me to get married? And his father replied, my son, if you still don't believe me, please study the Devi Bhagavatam. In the Devi Bhagavatam are many stories, an anthology of our Hindu Dharma, the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal ideal of perfection in wisdom and harmony is expressed in the most explicit terms. Son, study the scriptures, and then tell me if you have made up your mind. Shukadeva studied the Devi Bhagavatam, and even after that, he still didn't want to accept his father's opinion. And Vedas said, my son, I can tell your mind is made up, but before you take the decision to enter into the fourth stage of sannyasi, my son, please go to visit Janaka, the king of Mithila. He is liberated while living in a body, and he is my disciple. Go ask him your question, and please listen to his discourse. And then come back and tell me your decision. I will allow you to do as you choose, I promise you, my son. Just go meet King Janaka. Shukadeva visits King Janaka. Receiving the blessings of his father, Shukadeva began to traverse the land of India en route to Mithila. For a few years, he walked over the plains and climbed the mountains, crossed the streams and rivers. After some time, he finally came to Mithila, the city of Janaka. Outside the gate was a soldier who ordered him, stop, please. I'm required to know who you are and what business you have in this city. Shukadeva looked at the soldier and replied, I knew I was wrong to come here. What a fool I was to believe that this king was liberated while living. To me, being liberated means one sees everything as being the same. And yet this king has so much attachment that he puts soldiers outside the city to ask every prospective visitor, who are you and what business do you have to come here? I knew that it was impossible. I'm sorry, soldier. I didn't mean to waste your time. I'm going home right now. The soldier replied, well, you have come from such a long distance. I didn't mean to offend you. It's just my duty to ask. Shukadeva said, I understand it's your duty and that you meant no offense. A king is right in proclaiming such a duty. But that is not the type of proclamation that an enlightened being who sees everything as the same would make. What difference is it to him who is a good person and who is a bad person? He knows everywhere is oneness, and good and bad are merely value judgments according to individual aspirations. What everything is becoming makes no difference either. A liberated being sees everyone and everything as being the same. Being enlightened means seeing everything as one. There is no duality. There is no distinction. There is no delusion. How can he be liberated when he puts a guard in front of his city? It's impossible. Forget it. I don't even want to come into the city. The guard said, Holy Brahmin, I can tell that you are a very knowledgeable and respectable man. Please excuse me. Go ahead and enter the city. Shukadeva said, I know the purpose of my visit is going to be fruitless. I have come to hold discourse with an enlightened king. But obviously, instead of seeing oneness everywhere, this man sees distinctions everywhere. Well, as long as you invite me with such courtesy, and I've come this far, I might as well go in and see the city. So Shukadeva walked into the city and looked into the marketplaces. He saw normal people. Some of them were happy, and some of them were sad. Some of them were arguing, and some of them were debating the qualities of merchandise and the prices that they must pay. In various ways, various people were doing various activities, and Shukadeva thought to himself, there doesn't appear to be any sign of an enlightened administration in this city to me. These citizens aren't so happy. These citizens aren't radiating the joy and the bliss of having an enlightened master as their king. They are just normal people doing the same thing every normal person does. What kind of enlightened king is this? I knew I was wrong. My father gave me the wrong information. He was just trying to convince me to do his will. When King Janaka heard that Shukadeva, his guru's son, had come into his kingdom, his heart was filled with joy. He immediately sent his ministers outside to meet Shukadeva, and they escorted him to a beautiful palace. There, many beautiful young ladies from the palace came and prepared his bath. They gave him fresh clothes and prepared a delicious food for him. The ladies made a beautiful, soft bed upon which he could rest. And then they put him on the bed and started to massage his feet. Shukadeva was oblivious to the entire affair. When all the girls left, he sat in his yogic posture and went into meditation. Then he slept for a few hours. At the break of dawn, he woke up again to sit in meditation until the sun rose. Then he took his bath and waited for the king to call him. After a short time, a messenger came from the king. The king wants to see you. Please come. Shukadeva went to see the king. The king rose to greet him. Oh, Shukadeva, please tell me, to what do I owe the honor of this visit? Shukadeva said, O king, for 12 years I studied Vedas and Vedanta, living in the ashram of the Guru Brihaspati. When I returned from my studies at my Guru's ashram, I asked my father, what work should I do now? What is my karma in life? My father instructed me that I should marry and have children and free him from the debts of karma. I said, Father, for several years I have studied the knowledge of non-duality. I had a divine birth. I didn't come from any womb, but I came from the divine fire. Why should I marry and sell myself into bondage when I am not seeking the pleasures of the body? I seek absorption in the soul. My father seemed to be perplexed by anxiety and told me, no, son, you should marry. And when I flatly refused, he said, okay, if you don't believe me, go to Mithila and visit the King Janaka. After you talk to the king, Janaka, I will allow you to make any decision you like. So, king, I have come for your darshan. Please enlighten me. What are the duties of a man? Janaka replied, I shall tell you all about the path of liberation. After completing the studies as a brahmachari, one should bow to the guru and pay the dakshina. Then he should go home and marry. After marriage, one should remain contented and free from desires, sinless and truthful, and earn a livelihood with a pure heart. Live with justice and according to the dictates of conscience. And then when the children are self-sufficient, just a couple of years more, the stage of vanaprastha can be commenced along with the practice of tapasya. Ultimately, a developed soul can become a sannyasi, fully absorbed into the truth of supreme divinity. That is the path of liberation proclaimed by our Dharma. See, a true seeker must complete his stages of life, the asramas of life, one by one, step by step. No one should skip a step. He must complete the previous asramas successively and then enter into the next stage. Shukadeva asked, but king, if the purity of detachment arises from wisdom within the seeker, is it still necessary for him to go through all the ashramas? Isn't it possible to quit everything and reside in the forest? And Janaka answered, no. Even though it appears that the senses have become still for a time, that doesn't mean that they will always be still for all time. Even in the state of perfect yoga, it might appear that the senses are under control. That appearance is not to be trusted. The net of desire is very difficult to be conquered, and it never dies. The mind is very difficult to control. Therefore, it is necessary to move step by step, ashram by ashram. Nobody jumps. See, even a householder who performs his duties without attachment can live in pure happiness, realize his own self, and attain liberation. You see, I am liberated while living and engaged in protecting this kingdom. I am not affected by pleasure or pain. Still, I continue to act. The material world is simply an object of sensory perception, and the soul which perceives it is itself imperceivable. So tell me, how can the perceivable creation bind the imperceivable soul? This is a logical impossibility. The self, which is changeless without impurity, can never be bound by the changeful, visible, tangible, material things. When the heart becomes pure and quiet, all things become fully pure and fully quiet. It is the mind that is the cause of bondage and freedom. It is not the body. It is not the soul. It is not the senses. The self, the soul of all, is always pure consciousness, and it is always free, so it can never be bound. Bondage and freedom only reside in the mind. So when the mind is at peace, the bondage of existence ceases. This individual self, this individual existence is God. I am that God and nothing else. But, O king, inquired Shukadeva, I have another doubt. How can a man be free from desires and rewards from actions when he lives in the midst of this Maya? This entire material world is always forcing the mind into delusion. even acquiring the wisdom of the scriptures and discrimination to understand what is real and what is not. The delusion of the mind is not dispelled until one practices yoga. How can freedom from desire and liberation come to a householder? The Munis and Rishis who live in the forest, controlling their diets, controlling their senses, living their lives as hermits and mendicants, they know the transient nature of this world. Even they fall victims to Maya. Then what hope is there for you or I or anyone else who is acting and interacting in duality? When you are in this duality, you are bound by Maya. The 5 elements go with you wherever you go, and these elements always bring us to Maya, the delusion of duality. Janaka replied, "What you say is true without a particle of falsehood, Shukadeva. You are right. The 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, do exist everywhere. So even if you go to the forest, they will exist with you there. You will also be concerned about your staff and your seat and your blanket, your cup. You will worry about where you will find water and wood." Sadhu's dilemma. Wood and water. Enlightenment doesn't mean the complete cessation of thought. That state of yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha, the cessation of all modifications of consciousness, is transient. Neither does Brahma remain there, nor Vishnu, nor Shiva, nor any other embodied beings. Everyone returns to the awareness of duality. If Brahma was always in samadhi, where would the creation come from? If Vishnu was always in samadhi, how could he protect us? And if Shiva was always in samadhi, how could there be transformation in the universe? Enlightenment doesn't mean being free from manifestation. It does not mean being free from thought. Enlightenment means freedom from attachment. You see, your mind is filled with doubt, and therefore you are traveling in search of the cessation of your doubts. But you see, my mind is free from doubt. I am remaining here quite peacefully and cheerfully observing my Dharma. I am not bound up by this world. This idea gives me constant happiness at the highest degree. You consider that you are bound, and therefore you are in constant pain. No matter whether you go to the forest or you reside in your home, your mind will determine your state of bondage and liberation. This body is mine. That idea leads to bondage. This body is not mine. This knowledge gives freedom. So I tell you truthfully that all this kingdom, all this wealth, all the subjects for whom I perform administrative duties, none of this is mine. Shukadeva was extremely inspired. "You are a sadhu," he said to King Janaka, bowing with respect. "A sadhu is a master of efficiency. You have become extremely efficient at organizing your life. I bow to you in respect for your wisdom." Shukadeva looked into his own heart and thought, I can live in this world and this world is not mine. I can act in this world and the fruits of the action will not be mine. Then I too can become a yogi of karma, maintaining purity in action. Even if I go to the forest with my stick, my pot, and my blanket, I will be bound so long as the mind is not free. Whereas this king, administering an entire empire on behalf of a higher power, is liberated. Shukadeva bowed before King Janaka and took his leave. With this realization, he returned to his father's ashram on the banks of the holy Saraswati River. The marriage of Shukadeva. Vedyas came running to greet his son and was so happy to see him. He immediately inquired, "How are you, my son? What have you determined for your life?" And Shukadeva replied, "Father, as you wish, I will perform. None of this is mine." Then Shukadeva submerged himself in the practice of yoga. His father, Vedyas, arranged a marriage for him with Pibari, a beautiful daughter of Rishi. This beautiful young lady gave birth to 4 sons who were named Krishna, Gauraprabha, Bhuri, and Devasruti. And then she gave birth to 1 daughter whose name was Kirti. Shukadeva saw the nurturing of his children to their education and marriage and maintained his strict adherence to Dharma. When his children grew up and they were able to take care of themselves, he proceeded to Mount Kailash, where he started to meditate. Then he began to float into the sky. He developed all the 8 cities. There he was meditating high above, up in the sky above Mount Kailash. He began to radiate light like the sun. And suddenly he became merged into the Parabrahma, the Paramatma. And he became one with the universal soul and vanished into the air. Vedyas was much distressed. "My son, where did you go? Why did you leave me? You still have to perform my funeral rites. My son, come back!" Vedyas was very sorry that Shukadeva left. One day, Vedyas was wandering around looking through the heavens. "Where is my son, Shukadeva?" Then Shukadeva looked down at him from heaven, and in a voice which rumbled like a cloud, he said, "Father, there is no difference between you and me if you look at our soul. Why then are you weeping for me? Go home and perform tapasya." Then Vedyas went back to his ashram on the Saraswati River and began to practice tapasya. Are there any questions tonight?
Swamiji, can I ask a question?
Please.
Swamiji, on page 266, Shukadeva talks about contentment in the mind.
Santosh.
Santosh. And even in the Yoga Sutras, Santosh is one of the niyamas.
Yes.
But for a sadhak, the growth is something that is very important. And along with growth can happen only if there is discontent. So how do we reconcile these two? This need for great growth, which is caused by discontent, and contentment, which is a niyam.
It's just like the Divine Mother being present in Aim, Hrim, Klim, Chamdariviche. She is present in the constant change. The contentment comes from growing. From growing in your chosen direction. When you establish your goal and move towards that goal, you feel contentment. Contentment doesn't come from stagnation. Contentment comes from growing in your chosen field, in your chosen direction. So that's how I would reconcile it. A sadhu needs to have a goal, but that doesn't mean he's growing because he's discontent. He's content because he gets to grow. It's a privilege to get to expand ourselves, to grow, to reach out toward new horizons. And that doesn't mean he's not satisfied with what he has. It's the nature of the nature to continue to grow. So he's content in his process of growth. The process is the most important part of the journey, not the arrival at the destination. How are you going to arrive at an infinite destination? But the process of moving towards that destination gives you contentment, gives you santosh. Do you have any questions?
Swamiji, a question From Kumari, from Valley Hill.
Namaste, Kumari Ma.
Vedya says, Hindu scriptures say every being has 4 stages of life. How is it that some jump directly to sannyas without completing all 4?
Not necessarily do they jump to sannyas. Kumari Mom, being a brahmachari in an ashram, doesn't make one a sannyasi. If someone tries to skip a step, they're not really competent to be a sannyasi. Remember the wonderful story about Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya defeated Jagannath Mishra in debate. And Jagannath Mishra he was required by the terms of the debate to become the disciple of Shankaracharya. So Jagannath Mishra's wife said, I'm going to save my husband from this insult. The greatest Pundit has to become a disciple to this wandering ascetic. Wait a minute. Shankaracharya, let us debate on Kama Shastra. I want you to tell me about the arts of love. Shankaracharya said, I don't know anything about the arts of love. Give me 6 months and I'll come back with the answer. Shankaracharya left the scene and he went into a cave and he told his disciple, watch this body, I'm going away for a little bit. And he went into samadhi. In a nearby kingdom, the king just died. And all the palace was suffering tremendous grief and shock. They were all in despair. And all the queens were in such despair. Everyone was crying because the king had left his body. Suddenly, Shankaracharya moved into that body. He moved his spirit and his soul into that body, and suddenly the king was revived. When the king came back to life, he had no interest in any of the sexuality or sensuality or eating delicious food. He administered justice and equality for all the members of his kingdom. And the kingdom grew and prospered, and everyone was amazed. This doesn't look like our king. He looks like the king, but he doesn't act like the king. This is really a king. That death or near-death experience must have really changed him. After 6 months, Shankaracharya, in the body of the king, sat down in samadhi, and the king died. Shankaracharya woke up in his own body, and he said, I'm ready to debate with the wife of Jagannath Mishra. Because he had to fulfill the Grahastha Dharma in order to be able to tell her what are the obligations and the rights and the rules, and what are the benefits, and how do you perform successfully a Grahastha Dharma. There's one shloka from the Lolita Trishakti that stands out most prominently. It says, Shiva and Shakti revolve around each other mutually and reciprocally. Who understands this? That is mutual and reciprocal. They understand what is a center of energy. What is a chakra? What is a center of energy? And Shankaracharya defeated the wife of Jagannath Mishra, and then the Pundit had to become his disciple. Nobody skips a step, Kumari. If you skip it, you're going to have to go back and repeat it at some later time.
But Swamiji, when we look at our modern world today,
yes.
If we wait, you finish your brahmacharya, then you finish grahastha. By the time you come to one is prastha or sannyas, you don't have that body to
You may.
asana.
If you start when you're a brahmachari, you'll have the asana, and even when you're an old man like me, you'll still have your asana.
But Swamiji, you spent all the young years, 20 years being still a brahmachari.
Yes.
So you build the best when you're young and you're strong. It's easy to do. I don't know, it's easy to do, but you can do tapasya.
You can do it.
But when our mind is got in the rings of Grahastha Ashrama, we have so many vasanas, how will suddenly give all that up and become a sannyas or vanaprastha?
It's only a question of the definition of your ideal of perfection. If you can define your goal and plan your life, you can live the life according to your desire and not be imposed upon by society's conditioning. The society of America would readily reject such a usage of our land as we prepare right here. Our house has become a temple. Most of society would say that's foolish. Look at the neighbors down the highway. Somebody made a horse ranch, somebody made a cow ranch, somebody's growing grapes. Who's growing sadhus? Raising yogis? So society cannot impose upon us because we are firm in our conviction. And if you are firm in your conviction, you can choose the lifestyle that's appropriate for you. And then reach your goal, even as you become a grahastha, a vanaprastha, and then become sannyas. We have time for one more question.
Swamiji, question from Rolf from Mountain View.
Namaste, Rolf.
What can we learn from King Janaka's guard at the gate of the city? Is it part of Janaka's secret that he discriminates what influences are allowed into the kingdom?
Absolutely, Rolf. He is required as the father of the nation, and I wish he would give this lesson to Mr. Bush. He's required as the father of the nation to protect the border and to see who's coming in and what influences are coming into his kingdom. Because if the evil influences come into the kingdom, it can corrupt the society that he presides over. It is his duty to protect them. And so therefore the guard at the gate is doing his duty according to the definition of the duty of the king. The definition of the duty of the king is to provide for the nourishment and the growth and the peace and the harmony of his society. And if he does that efficiently, he's a good king. He's a protector to his family. Just as we try to protect all the sadhus who come to the Devi Mandir and make sure that nobody who's not a sadhu has any business here. They can communicate with us by other ways, by the internet, by email, by telephone. But inside the Devi Mandir, we only want pure spiritual beings who really know the purpose of their coming here and know how to accomplish it. Everyone else, the gate is locked. So Rolf, Janaka set a precedent for all of us. We don't want terrorists coming into our nation. We don't want terrorists coming into our mind. Why should we allow the evil influences to come inside? Janaka has performed correctly. Om Sam Saraswati Namaha. Namaste.